He fed a starving alien cub. Minutes later, her seductive alien mother returned. The upper terraces of Thaurian Keys were loud, bright, and carefully arranged, but Jeremy Rowan always saw the gaps. He stood under a rust-orange awning bolted into a white stone pillar, a food tray balanced in one hand, his shoulder against cool metal. The floor under his boots was solid alloy, worn from years of traffic, seams filled with blue guidelines that pulsed gently toward the docks. Sunlight bounced off chrome rails and ship hulls, off the green surface of the sea far below. The air carried salt, hot metal, body heat, and the sharp spice from a row of grills that never cooled. He felt tense. His shoulders were tight, his jaw was set, his thoughts kept tracking every risk in sight. He dropped his eyes to his tray and forced himself to breathe. The food in front of him was simple and heavy. Strips of Kiri's meat lay across a dented plate, charred at the edges, dense in the middle, glazed with a thick Neville pepper sauce that clung to the grain curls packed underneath. Steam rose from the meat and ran over his face, hot and sharp. A chipped cup of heliox root infusion sat to the side, dark and bitter, the smell cutting through the grease and smoke. He ate with steady, efficient movements. He pushed a strip of meat into the grain, picked up both together, and chewed. The salt and heat hit first, then the slow burn from sauce. His stomach eased a little as it filled. He needed it. His shift had started before sunrise, and the slate on his belt had not stopped vibrating with dock codes until 10 minutes ago. He worked as a harbor allocation officer. His job was to keep ships from colliding and cargo from clogging the quays. Before that, for 8 hard years, he served in the Planetary Emergency Dive Corps. That work had carved a purpose into him. He knew how fast a corridor could fill with water, how fast people could die because someone missed a warning sign or decided a risk was small enough to ignore. Now, above the water instead of in it, his mission felt smaller on paper. Assign berths, track schedules, clear bottlenecks. But he treated the job as more than logistics. Every clean docking, every smooth transfer, every avoided crush at the gangways meant fewer emergency calls. Fewer people screaming through flooded comms for help that would come too late. He stood on his brake and kept scanning out of habit. He watched lines of workers, the sway of suspended cargo pods on overhead tracks, the way crowds bunched near popular stalls and thinned at narrow ramps. He watched for the flicker of panic, for someone frozen in the wrong place. He saw something else instead. A small body slipped between adult legs, moving against the flow. Jeremy's attention locked. His muscles shifted, ready. A child, he thought first, then his brain filled in the rest. The boy stood at the edge of the stall's shadow. Green skin, pale where the bones pushed it out, darker in the hollows, short red hair hacked to uneven lengths. Bare ankles above cheap flex sandals worn to a shine at the heel. An overlarge dock tunic hung off one shoulder, patched at the elbows, threadbare at the ribs. The child's eyes were the worst part. Large, gold, and too sharp. They moved fast from plate to plate as people carried food away. His throat bobbed each time a loaded tray passed. His fingers curled and uncurled at his sides, empty. Jeremy felt anger. It came clean and controlled. His teeth pressed together once. His grip on his fork tightened, then loosened again as he forced himself to stay deliberate. The boy edged closer to the grill. The vendor glanced down and scowled. Off, the man snapped, waving a greasy cloth. Away from the rack. You breathe on the meat, you buy it. The boy flinched, his shoulders folded in, chin dropping. He took 2 quick steps back, but his eyes stayed on the food. He swallowed again, throat moving against skin that looked too tight. Jeremy set his fork on his tray with a small clack. The sound barely registered under the noise of the terrace, but it felt loud to him. He straightened from the pillar and walked toward the counter. He smelled burned fat, hot metal, and the faint sourness of old oil under the fresh spices. The grill hissed as the vendor turned a new strip of Kiri's meat. People in line shuffled aside when they saw Jeremy's impact vest and the ID tags clipped to his chest. Another plate, Jeremy said. Kiri's, heavy portion, Atharn leaf wraps, and a warm Lernan milk foam. The vendor squinted at him, then flung a glance toward the boy. "You feeding that one?" the man asked, wiping his hands on his apron. He'd been hanging around all week, eyes like a starving dog. Jeremy's patience thinned. He felt it in the flatness of his voice. "Plate," he repeated. The vendor snorted, but he grabbed a tray and started loading it. Meat hit metal with a wet slap. The sauce bubbled as he brushed it over. He scooped Orvan grain curls from a steel dish, steam rising as he stacked them under the meat. He added 2 thorn leaf wraps, the green leaves scorched at the edges, folded around small pieces of meat that oozed juice. "Milk foam," Jeremy said. "You want him sick," the vendor muttered, pouring pale learned milk into a small cup, whipping it by hand until foam rose. His stomach's half air. "You give kids like that rich food, they puke it up behind your door." "I'll handle it," Jeremy answered. He paid with his wrist chip and stepped away from the main counter. He found a low crate against the support pillar where he had been standing and set the tray on top, bringing it down to the child's level. The boy stared at the food. His nostrils flared. His hands stayed at his sides, fingers twitching. Jeremy crouched, so his shoulders were lower than the boy's eyes. He kept his voice even. "Eat," he said. "You're shaking." The boy's hands were trembling. Up close, Jeremy saw it clearly. Tiny muscles in his forearms jumped under his skin. When he swallowed, the tendons in his neck stood out. "I can't," the boy muttered. His voice had a rasp in it, the sound of a throat that had gone too long without enough water or food. "My mother said not to take from humans. She said they always want something back." Jeremy felt something heavy sink in his chest. Annoyance at the rule, respect for the reason behind it, empathy for the woman who had taught it. He picked up 1 strip of Kiri's meat, blew on it once until the steam eased, then held out halfway between them. "Today I want this gone," he said. "If you eat it, you help me. That's enough." The boy looked at the meat, then at Jeremy's face. The boy's eyes tracked small details. The stubble on Jeremy's jaw, the faint scars on his fingers, the steadiness in his stare. He seemed to weigh the risk against the smell in front of him. His stomach growled, audible even over the sizzle of the grill. Several people nearby turned. One woman in a neat gray jacket lifted an eyebrow and gave a small, cold smile. "Soft-hearted harbor man," she said to her companion, not bothering to lower her voice. "They never learn. Today 1 cup, tomorrow 10. Jeremy ignored her. His focus stayed on the boy. The child edged forward, snatched the strip from Jeremy's hand, and bit down hard. His cheeks puffed. He chewed fast, jaw working, eyes closing for a brief second as the taste hit. The sauce smeared his lips. He swallowed without fully chewing, then coughed once, a short, harsh sound. Jeremy waited. He cut another strip into smaller pieces and pushed the plate a little closer. "Slow down," he said. "Smaller bites. You keep more that way." The boy listened in the simple way starving bodies listened to anyone who provided food. He took smaller pieces, still quick but not frantic. Sauce dripped onto the crate. He chased it with his fingers, licking them clean, ashamed and hungry at the same time. His face warmed to a darker green. "What's your name?" Jeremy asked. The boy glanced up and hesitated again. "Turin," he said finally. "Jeremy," he answered. "You eaten anything else today, Turin?" Turin shook his head. Jeremy did a quiet calculation. There was no fat on the boy's arms, no roundness in his face. The tunic might have belonged to someone bigger once, but the way it hung now came from his size, not the cloth. This was not a bad day. This was a pattern. "Where's your mother?" Jeremy asked. "Should she be here?" "She's working lower piers," Turin said, his words muffled around another bite. "Hull cleaning." She said wait. She said not to beg. She said we almost have enough for a rune share registration next week. Jeremy absorbed that. A rune share registration meant she was trying to get them off the street legally, not just squatting in ducks. It meant she'd been saving, probably turning down offers that would have paid more and cost too much. "Okay," Jeremy said. "When she asks, tell her a harbor officer insisted her son eat on his break. Tell her he didn't want to argue with her about it." Turin frowned. "She'll still be angry," he said. "She gets angry when she's tired. She's tired a lot." Jeremy understood that too well. Tired people who carried other people's survival on their backs often snapped before they broke. "You can tell her I started it," Jeremy said. Not you. Turin drained the learned milk foam with both hands around the cup. Foam stuck to his upper lip. He wiped it with the back of his hand, then looked at the empty tray with a small, exhausted satisfaction. Jeremy watched him and felt his own mission tighten in his mind. He was here to keep ships from colliding, to keep cargo flowing, to make the harbor safer. But he had added a private rule after the dive corps. If he saw someone drowning in plain sight, he did not walk past and pretend they were fine because it wasn't written on his slate. Footsteps hit the metal behind Turin, fast and sharp. Jeremy recognized anger in the rhythm before he turned. A woman cut through the edge of the crowd, eyes locked on the boy. She moved with purpose. Her stride was long, hips lined up straight under her tide wrap. Her arms were tense, hands half-curled, ready to grab. People stepped aside without thinking. Some looked at her and smirked. Some looked and looked away. Her skin was a rich, luminous green, darker along her shoulders and hips, lighter where the sun touched her forearms and collarbones. Tiny flecks of gold dotted her temples and the tops of her shoulders, catching the light. Long dark red hair fell over her back and one shoulder in thick waves, damp at the ends from sea spray lower down. She wore a faded tide-wrap skirt wrapped tight around her hips and thighs. The fabric had once been a deep sea green. Now the color had leached from salt and sun, but it still clung. A high slit on one side bare the length of her left leg, muscles defined from climbing and hauling. Her chest was bound in a narrow strip of sea-loom cloth, knotted behind her neck and across her back. It covered what it needed to and left most of her midriff and back bare. The cloth was patched in two places, careful, small stitches that showed she fixed what she had instead of buying new. She stopped in front of Turin and grabbed his wrist with one hand. Her fingers closed tight, almost meeting around the bone. "What did you do?" she asked, voice low and rough. "Turin, look at me. What did you do?" Turin turned his face up, eyes already wide. He flinched at her tone, but did not pull back. "I was hungry," he said. "He fed me." Her gaze snapped to Jeremy. "Did he bother you, human?" she demanded. Her voice carried far enough for the nearby stall to go quiet. A few people turned their bodies to watch more openly. Jeremy straightened from his crouch. His knees cracked quietly. He lifted his chin so his eyes stayed level with hers, even though he was taller by a full head. Her eyes were golden amber, the same base color as Turin's, but darker around the edges. The pupils were narrow vertical slits, sharp and controlled. Her jaw flexed once. Her shoulders were tight, ready to throw up a wall or a weapon. "No," Jeremy said. He was near the grill. "I bought a plate. He ate it. That's all. That's all." A dockhand repeated from near the grill, his tone mocking. He leaned on a post, apron stained, a skewer in his hand. "Man buys meat and milk for a stray cub and doesn't want anything back. Must be charity week." A couple of workers laughed. A woman shook her head with a crooked smile. "Sure," she said. "Feed the cub, get the mother as dessert." The words hung in the air like a thin film. Jeremy felt his temper heat, slow and controlled rather than explosive. He watched the impact on the woman first. Shame hit her. It showed in the way her shoulders stiffened, in the green-gold flush that rose under her skin from throat to cheek. Her fingers tightened on Turin's wrist until the boy drew in a sharp breath. "Mother," Turin whispered. She loosened her grip a fraction, enough to stop the pain, not enough to let go. Jeremy saw more than anger in her face. He saw exhaustion, fine lines at the corners of her mouth from clenching her teeth, a faint shadow under her eyes that no amount of sleep would clear in a day. She inhaled once, shallow, then forced her shoulders back. "Thank you for feeding him," she said. The words sounded like she had to push them out past something sharp. "I will repay you, and then the debt is done." She stepped closer to him. The slit in her skirt shifted, revealing more of her thigh. The sea-loom cloth over her chest rose and fell with her breath. The air between them warmed. Her eyes dropped briefly to his mouth, then climbed back up. Her voice lowered so only he could hear under the general noise. "If you fed my cub, you fed me," she said. "Take us with you. I can pay you." She tilted her hips slightly, chin dipping. The movement was precise, learned. It turned her body into an offer without needing further words. Jeremy felt attraction. It was immediate and physical. Her skin, the curve of her waist, the exposed line of her back, all landed in his nervous system at once. Heat rose under his collar. The part of him that responded to a warm body and willing eyes noticed every detail. Another part of him pushed back hard. He knew what it meant when someone turned their body into currency while standing next to a child. It meant she had run out of safer options too many times. His jaw tensed. He dropped his shoulders a fraction, relaxing his arms to keep from looking confrontational. "That's not what I want," he said. She blinked, confusion flickering through her eyes. "That is what men want," she answered, voice flat. "Food, shelter, work. They do not give these things for free. If you say you do, you're lying to yourself or to me. You think offering yourself is the only way to clear this," Jeremy said quietly. "That is the insult." Behind her, the dockhand laughed again. "Listen to him," the man said loudly. "Harbor Saint. Next thing you know, he will register himself as repair anchor and send the kid to school." Several people snickered. A few shook their heads and moved on, already bored. A registry clerk in a crisp blue vest slowed as she passed, eyes tracking the scene. She recognized Jeremy's tags and the alien woman's clothing in the same glance. "You picking up cases now, Rowan," she said, lips tight. "Careful where you stamp your name. Extra mouths pull you down fast." Jeremy turned his head just enough to meet her gaze. "I can swim," he said. The clerk rolled her eyes and walked away. Sci watched that exchange closely. Her name had never been spoken, but she heard her situation in every word. Alien mother, hungry cub, rumors ready to attach themselves before anyone asked what she wanted. She had come to the upper terraces for one reason: to collect the small digital transfer from a hull cleaning contract and see if it was enough to push her over the hostile registration threshold. Her mission was straightforward in her own head: keep Trent alive, keep him out of gangs and pipes, gather enough credits to get them behind a door that locked from the inside. She had turned down offers that included room and food in exchange for being friendly with a foreman and his crew. She had taken harder, dirtier jobs instead. That choice had a cost. Fewer meals, more nights sleeping under stairwells with Turin wrapped in her tide wrap to block the cold. Now her son stood in front of her, face smeared with sauce, belly full of human-paid meat, and the whole terrace already had an opinion about what she would do next. She felt trapped. Her chest hurt. Her pulse pounded in her neck. "The debt is canceled," she said to Jeremy. "You say you do not want payment. Then there is nothing between us. We leave." She tugged on Turin's arm. "Come," she said. Turin stumbled, body heavy and slow after eating. He caught his balance, then stopped. His fingers clenched at her tide wrap. "Mother," he said, "I want to say thank you." "You thanked him when you ate," she snapped. "We go." Jeremy shifted his position, stepping just enough to block the straight line out from under the awning. He did it without raising his hands or squaring his shoulders. He simply became something they would have to move around. "You do not owe me," he said. "You and your boy look like you have not had a real place to sleep in days. I have an apartment. One bed, floor space, hot water. You can use it. You can walk away in the morning if you hate it. The food is already gone. There is nothing to pay back." Sci's eyes narrowed. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you share your home with a stranger and her child? What is your mission here, human? Harbormen talk about duty, not charity." Jeremy felt the question land hard. He took half a breath and answered honestly. "My job is to keep the docks running," he said. "If the harbor clogs, people panic. When people panic, they get hurt. Sometimes they die. I've pulled enough bodies out of water. I prefer preventing the fall in the first place. That is the work they pay me for." He nodded at Trent. "What I do with my break is my own mission," he added. "I saw a hungry kid. I did not want to spend the rest of the day pretending I didn't." Trent stared at him, eyes wide. His chest rose and fell a little faster. Sci's throat tightened. The steadiness in Jeremy's tone and the complete lack of pity in his words bothered her more than any offer could. He did not sound like a man lowering himself to help the poor. He sounded like a man following his own rules. "You share a room," she said. "With who?" "A partner. A family. Are they there?" "Just me," he said. No partner. No children. No one to complain if I bring guests with clean feet and good sense. Turin looked down at his toes, checking the dust on his sandals. He scrubbed one sole on the edge of the crate without thinking. Risai saw that small movement and felt a sharp ache in her chest. Her son was trying to make himself acceptable for this stranger's home. She needed to know more. "You were dive core," she said, eyes flicking to the faint scars on his hands, to the way he watched the crowd. "You move like it." Jeremy's mouth twitched. 8 years, he said. Flooded corridors. Broken platforms. People who thought they had more time than they did. "Why did you leave?" she asked. "Too many nights where saving one person meant leaving another," he said. "The harbor is quieter. Fewer choices like that." He did not add that he still woke to the memory of cold water closing over his head and a hand slipping out of his grip. He did not add that giving someone a bed for a night felt easier than explaining to a family why their son had not made it to the surface. Risai took that in. There was a tired weight behind his words she recognized. She carried her own version of it. Years of trading her time and strength just to keep Turin's stomach from nodding. "What is your name?" she asked. "Jeremy Rowan," he said. "Harbor Allocation Officer. Mid-tier." She thought his name through once. She had heard it in passing in dock gossip. The harbor man who kept the schedules tight, but sometimes bent rules when it meant fewer people sleeping on loading ramps. The one who had pulled a drunk dock worker back from the edge of a mooring ledge without shouting or filing a complaint. She felt fear. Letting herself and Turin into a stranger space could open them to the worst kind of harm. She also felt the grind of exhaustion in her bones, the burn in her shoulders from hauling, cleaning rigs, the sour mix of hunger and cheap food in her stomach. She looked at Turin. His eyes were fixed on Jeremy, on the man's steady stance, on the way he filled the space without posturing. "Mother," Turin said softly. "One night, if he lies, we run. You always say we run fast." He was shaking less already. His voice had a tiny thread of hope in it. That thread scared her more than anything. Hope made people careless. But she also knew what happened to children who never saw a door close behind them with their bedding on the inside. She inhaled, slow and deep. The salt in the air stung her nose. "You will not use my body as rent," she said to Jeremy. "Not once. Not in a joke. Not in a half-sleeping grab. If I ever want your hands, I will ask. If you cross that line without my asking, we leave and I make sure you regret it." Jeremy met her gaze without flinching. "Agreed," he said. "No touching without clear yes. From anyone under my roof. And my son," she added. "You do not talk to him like he is a burden. You do not remind him what he costs. He already knows. He counts every bite." Jeremy's chest tightened. He nodded once. "He is a kid," he said. "In my place, he will be treated like one." Risai held his eyes for another long breath. The crowd around them had started to move again, attention drifting away like smoke. The vendor had gone back to calling out orders. The terrace had absorbed the scene and filed it as gossip. She still stood on the edge of a choice. "Fine," she said. "We come. One night. After that, we decide." She shifted her grip on Turin's arm. Her hand slid from his wrist into his palm. Their fingers locked together. Jeremy stepped aside and gestured toward the open walkway. "This way," he said. He picked up his slate from the crate, clipped it back to his belt, abandoned his half-finished Heliox infusion, and walked out from under the awning. Sunlight hit his face, strong and clean. The metal under his boots was hot through the soles. Risai and Turin followed, a half-step behind. He kept his pace unhurried. He did not look back every second, but he listened. He heard Turin's lighter steps, the slight drag in Risai's gait from sore muscles. He heard a few whispered comments as they passed groups of workers, more curious than cruel now. "Is that the hull cleaner?" one man murmured. "The one with the green kid. Looks like she found herself a harbor man," a woman answered. "We'll see how long that lasts." Jeremy's shoulders tightened, but he did not respond. His focus stayed on the path ahead. They moved off the main ring onto a narrower corridor that ran along the outer edge of the habitation stack. The noise from the stalls fell away. The air cooled. Shadows stretched across the floor where overhangs blocked the sun. On one side, a short wall and rail looked out over the green water. Waves rolled against steel pylons, steady and relentless. On the other, doors punctured the white stone, each with its own worn threshold and small personal marks. A line of potted plants, a strip of colored cloth, a hanging bundle of dried herbs. Jeremy stopped at a door halfway down. A small keypad and palm plate were mounted at shoulder height. He pressed his palm to the plate. The lock clicked. The door slid sideways halfway and stuck. He set his shoulder against it and pushed. The muscles in his arms drew tight, his vest creaking slightly at the seams. The door moved the rest of the way with a grinding sound. Risai watched him with narrowed eyes. His strength was obvious but controlled. He didn't curse the door. He just solved the small problem and stepped back. He turned toward her. "Welcome to my very average home," he said. The air that drifted out carried the smell of metal, soap, and the faint spice of dried needle buds. Inside, the light was softer, filtered through a single narrow window that looked out toward the water. Risai's heart pounded. She stood on the threshold with Turin pressed close to her side, fingers tight in her tide wrap. Anxiety ran through her body. Her legs wanted to back away. Her spine held her in place. "Mother," Turin whispered, "can we go in?" She looked down at him. His eyes were wide, hopeful and wary at the same time. He had spent most of the last year sleeping under stairs, in storage alcoves, in corners of maintenance corridors where the sweep drones rarely reached. A real door in a room that smelled like one person instead of many was more than shelter. It was a different life, even for a night. She swallowed once. "We go in," she said quietly. "We keep our eyes open." She lifted her chin and stepped over the threshold, Turin's hand in hers. Jeremy watched them enter his small apartment. He felt a strange mix of calm and anticipation. He knew exactly why he had brought them here. It was not about rescuing anyone in a grand way. His mission was simpler. He planned to give them one night without hunger and cold, to see if there was a path beyond that they were willing to walk. He stepped in after them and let the door slide shut, the lock clicking into place with a clean, final sound. Jeremy locked the door behind them, the soft click echoing in the small apartment. The room opened into a single living space with clean metal floors, a narrow kitchenette, and a short hallway leading to the bedroom. Light from the window washed across the walls in a pale, steady glow. The air smelled like dried herbs, warm metal, and soap. Turin stepped in first, his bare feet silent on the floor. He looked around with a stiff sort of anticipation, unsure if he should speak. Risai stayed close behind him, one hand on his shoulder. Her fingers pressed lightly, protective, tense. Her eyes traced every corner of the room, measuring exits, checking shadows, scanning for anything hidden. Jeremy saw that caution. He'd seen it in evacuees before. People who lived too long in places where doors didn't lock and walls didn't protect. He unhooked his vest and hung it on the hook by the entry, letting his stance soften a little. "It's not big," he said, "but it's clean. The floor stays warm. Water heater works most days." Risai's gaze flicked toward him. She didn't smile, but her shoulders eased by a fraction. Turin edged toward the kitchenette, sniffing the air. "Is that food?" Turin asked. Jeremy followed his line of sight. A metal bowl sat on the counter, half filled with leftover varan root slices he'd cooked the night before. They were cold now, edges firm, the earthy smell faint but still there. "You can have those," Jeremy said. But slowly, Risai moved in before Turin could reach the counter. She crouched down, holding his face lightly between her palms. Her voice was soft but direct. "You eat half now," she told him, "and only if your stomach doesn't twist. You remember last time?" Turin nodded, serious. He took a piece of varan root and bit into it carefully. He chewed slowly this time, watching Jeremy to see if it was allowed. Jeremy leaned against the counter and filled a cup with filtered water. He passed it to Turin first, then poured another for Risai. When she hesitated, he set it down on the counter instead of offering it again. "You asked earlier," Jeremy said, "why I bring strangers home. You deserve an answer that isn't clipped." Risai straightened. Her hair slid over one shoulder, the wave falling down her arm. She didn't cross her arms or step back. She simply waited. "I don't take people in often," Jeremy said. I'm not trying to start a habit, but I saw the two of you before today. Risai's eyes narrowed. Where? She asked. Lower Pier Walkway, Jeremy said. 2 mornings this week. You passed the same maintenance stand. You carried 2 cleaning rigs at once. Most people can't lift one that high without help. Risai's jaw tightened. You watched us, she said. I watch everyone, he answered simply. That's the job. But I paid attention because you handled the rigs even when you were exhausted. Not many people do that when they're running schemes. Risai exhaled slowly. Turin looked between them as if trying to follow a coded exchange. You think we're honest, she said, tone neutral. I think you work hard, Jeremy replied. And your boy doesn't take anything he didn't earn. That's enough for me. A small shift passed through her posture, relief mixed with the discomfort of being seen too clearly. Jeremy stepped toward the kitchenette and opened a storage drawer. Inside were spare items, a worn towel, an old dock shirt folded neatly, and a set of soft, thin sleep pants. I don't have much that fits you, he said, but some people keep clothes here after long shifts. You can use what you need. Risai glanced at the fabric. The shirt smelled faintly of detergent and sunlight. She ran 2 fingers over the hem, checking for rips. You offer a bed, she said, but where will you sleep? Floor, Jeremy said. It's softer than it looks. That's not an answer, she said. It's the one I have, Jeremy replied. She stared at him longer this time, searching for cracks in his tone or any sign of expectation. She didn't find any. Her gaze drifted toward the hallway, then to the bedroom door that stood slightly open. Warm light spilled across the floor. Show me, she said. Jeremy nodded and walked down the short hall. Turin followed, gripping his mother's wrap with one hand. Jeremy pushed the bedroom door open fully. The room was small but neat. A single bed sat under the window. The blanket was plain and dark, neatly pulled tight. A small metal side table held a lamp and a jar of dried sour and weed. This is yours tonight, he said. Both of you. I'll take the couch. Risai stepped inside. She touched the bed frame with 2 fingers as if checking whether it was real. The surface didn't creak. The mattress gave slightly under the pressure. Her throat worked as she swallowed. You sleep up here, she said. Every night. Usually, he said. And you offer it to strangers. I offer it to people who need it more than I do, he said. Not strangers. You're not strangers anymore. Her eyes moved quickly to his face, then away. Jeremy caught the sting behind her reaction. Years of being treated as a problem, not a person. Turin climbed onto the bed without waiting. He sat cross-legged, running his palms across the blanket. His shoulders lowered in a visible release. This is soft, he murmured. Risai watched him with a tight expression that softened only at the edges. We won't stay long, she said to Jeremy, still standing. One night. Tomorrow I go back to the registry. We should have enough for a room if the clerk doesn't change the fee again. Jeremy nodded. If you want help with that, he said, I can walk you there. Clerks behave differently when someone shows up with a staff tag. Risai stiffened. I don't want to look like someone's charity, she said, or someone's property. You won't, Jeremy said. If I walk with you, it's because I respect what you're trying to do, not because I'm claiming you. The silence after that sat heavy, but not hostile. Risai lowered her gaze for a moment, then lifted it again with more steadiness. You keep saying things no one expects, she said. That's probably good, Jeremy replied. Expectations haven't been fair to you. Turin lay down fully now, rolled onto his side, and pressed his cheek to the pillow. He blinked in slow, heavy intervals. The warmth and safety were catching up to him fast. He'll be asleep soon, Jeremy said quietly. He fights it every night, Risai answered. But the moment he's warm, it takes him. Jeremy stepped out of the doorway to give them space. Risai sat on the edge of the bed, running her thumb gently across Turin's forehead. The boy's breathing deepened almost instantly. Jeremy spoke from the hallway, his tone flat and practical. If you want to wash, the shower's at the end of the hall. Hot water stable as long as no one loads the laundry vents. Risai looked toward the bathroom door. She touched her hair once, feeling the salt and dust clinging to it and the stiffness of old sweat. You keep watching the exits, Jeremy said quietly. She didn't deny it. I didn't bring you here to corner you, he continued. You can leave anytime. You want the door open? I'll keep it open. You want it closed? It stays closed. You decide what makes you safe. The weight in her voice thinned. Why are you saying these things? She asked. Most men don't bother. Because I know how it feels when safety depends on someone else's mood, Jeremy said. I don't want that for you. Her breath caught, but she kept her face steady. I'll wash, she said finally, but I need clothes after. Give me the shirt. Jeremy nodded once. He took the folded dock shirt from the drawer and set it on the bed beside her. It was oversized and soft, sleeves long enough to fall past her wrists. Sci lifted the shirt, smelling the clean cotton. She checked the seams again like someone who'd had clothes fall apart at bad moments. She stood, paused, then looked directly at him. Jeremy, she said, if I step into that shower, I'm trusting you with everything I've got left. He answered without hesitation. You're safe in this home. Her eyes flickered with something raw and unguarded before she hit it again. She turned and walked toward the bathroom with careful steps, her tide wrap brushing her legs as she moved. Jeremy stood alone in the hallway for a moment, listening to the soft click of the bathroom door closing. Water started running a moment later, steady, hot, uninterrupted. He exhaled slowly and leaned against the wall, feeling the tension in his back ease for the first time all day. He planned to guide both of them step by step towards something stable, even if they weren't ready to trust it yet. And for the first time since he left the dive core, the purpose in front of him felt clearer than the work waiting on his slate. The shower ran behind a closed door, steady and hot. Steam slipped through the gap near the hinge and drifted into the dim hallway. Jeremy stayed where he was, leaning against the wall, giving the room space to breathe. Turin slept on the bed, curled on his side with his knees drawn in, one hand tucked under the pillow. The blanket rose and fell with each slow breath. The earlier tension in his small body had drained completely. Jeremy stepped quietly into the bedroom doorway and checked on him. Turin's cheeks had color again. His mouth hung open slightly. The faintest smudge of spice from the Varen root meal stained his fingers. Jeremy gently pulled the blanket higher over the boy's legs, careful not to wake him. The shower clicked off. Sci didn't come out immediately. He heard the rustle of fabric, the soft clink of the water heater recharging. When the door finally opened, she stepped into the hallway wearing his oversized dock shirt. The shirt hung loose on her frame, the hem ending mid-thigh. One side slid off her shoulder, exposing the curve of her collarbone and a faint trail of gold flecks along her skin. Her red hair was wet, heavy, sticking to her back in long strands. Droplets slid down her neck, traced her spine, and disappeared under the edge of the fabric. She paused when she saw him. Jeremy straightened, but didn't move closer. He kept his hands relaxed at his sides. She studied his posture before stepping fully into the hall. Her bare feet made soft taps against the warm floor. It works, she said, touching a strand of wet hair. The water. It stays hot. It should, Jeremy answered. I rebuilt the regulator last month. She gave a small, surprised look. You fix things, she said. I thought harbor officers only organized ships. I fix what breaks in my home, he said. It's faster than waiting for maintenance. Sci shifted her weight. The shirt moved with her, outlining her waist and the natural curve of her hips. She glanced toward the bedroom door, then toward the small kitchenette, then back at him. You left the door unlocked, she said quietly. You were in the shower, he replied. I said I'd keep it open if you wanted space. Her eyes stirred with something unreadable. Her fingers brushed the edge of the shirt's collar, pulling it slightly higher before letting it fall again. She walked past him into the living space, each step measured. Jeremy followed at a respectful distance. She stopped near the counter, where the bowl of leftover Varen roots still sat. She picked up one slice, inspected it, then set it back down without eating. You cooked this, she asked. Last night, he said. I make batches. Easier than buying food between shifts. You cook for yourself, she said. For now, he replied. Her eyes flicked up. The implication sat between them. Something simple, something not yet defined, something she could choose to reject or accept later. She looked away first. Her gaze drifted to the window above the bed. From here, the sea was visible between the pylons. Green waves pushed against metal supports. Light bounced off the surface in irregular flashes. She lowered herself onto the couch, adjusting the shirt so it covered more of her legs. The fabric slid anyway. She didn't pull it back up. She seemed too tired to care. She leaned back, resting her head on the cushion, and took a long breath. Jeremy stayed standing near the counter. Turin sleeps like someone who hasn't slept safely in weeks, Jeremy said. Risai rubbed her temple with 2 fingers. He doesn't sleep deep, she said. He's learned not to. He wakes for every sound, every footstep in the wrong direction. He didn't wake when you left the room, Jeremy said. That's unusual, she admitted. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the apartment's wall heaters filled the space, steady and low. You said earlier you saw us before today, Risai said, on the lower piers. I did, Jeremy replied. You carry the cleaning rigs differently than the other workers. You brace the weight with your legs, not your back. You've done heavy work before. She lifted an eyebrow. You notice a lot, she said. It's my job, he answered. And I pay attention to people who carry too much alone. Risai shifted again. Her posture softened. Then she caught herself and pulled her back straight. You think we're a responsibility now, she said. You think feeding us means you have to keep fixing things. No, he said. I know I don't have to. I'm choosing to. Her lips parted just slightly. An involuntary reaction she tried to hide by looking toward the window. Jeremy moved to the cabinet above the counter and took out a metal pan. You hungry? He asked. Risai blinked. It wasn't the question she expected. I ate earlier, she said. When you weren't looking. Turin gave me one of the wraps you bought. I saw, Jeremy said. You let him pretend you didn't need it. She tensed. I don't want him worrying about me. He already does, Jeremy said. She exhaled sharply. Jeremy set the pan on the stovetop and pulled a small container from the cooler box. Strips of Kiri's meat sat inside, marinated. He placed a few pieces into the pan. They hit the hot surface with a sharp sizzle, sending up steam scented with salt and pepper glaze. Risai's stomach tightened at the smell. She tried not to show it, but he noticed. He didn't mention it. He let the meat cook, flipping each piece with controlled movements. You can shower tomorrow morning too, Jeremy said as he worked. Before Turin wakes. Before the registry. You're assuming we're staying the whole night, she said. You're exhausted, he said, and the boy is already asleep. She didn't argue. He plated the meat, only 2 strips, and placed it on the table in front of her. Eat, he said. I made too much anyway. I shouldn't, she said weakly. But you're going to, he replied. Risai hesitated, then picked up a piece with her fingers. The glaze stuck to her skin. She took a careful bite, jaw working slowly at first, then faster when the flavor hit. She swallowed and looked at him again, expression tight. You did more for us in 1 hour than anyone has in months, she said. I don't understand it. You don't have to yet, he said. Just take what makes sense today. She stared down at the plate, then at her own hands, then at the closed bedroom door. When was the last time you lived with someone else? She asked unexpectedly. A partner. Family. Anyone. Before the dive corps, Jeremy said. My sister and I share a place. She works on a different colony now. Haven't seen her in years. She would think this is strange, Risai said. Bringing strangers into your home. She'd think I was doing what I always do, he said. Putting people first. You talk like it's easy, she murmured. It's not, he said. She leaned back again, letting the shirt slide a little as she shifted. She didn't adjust it. She kept watching him. Jeremy, she said, voice low. When you say we're safe here, do you mean it? Or is it something you tell yourself so you don't feel guilty later? He crossed the room slowly. He didn't touch her. He set his hand on the back of the couch, near her shoulder, not close enough to crowd her. I mean it, he said. I don't bring people in if I can't follow through. Risai looked at his hand, then at his face. Her breathing steadied. Some of the tension left her jaw. Then I'll stay until morning, she said. Nothing more. That's enough, Jeremy replied. She finished the last piece of Kiri's meat. Her eyelids were beginning to lower, the exhaustion catching her the same way it caught Turin earlier. Take the bed, Jeremy said. I'll stay out here. She stood slowly. The shirt slid against her damp skin. She steadied herself with one hand on the couch arm. "You sleep near the door," she said, glancing at the entrance. "If someone tries to come in." "No one comes in," Jeremy said, "but I'll stay alert." She nodded once, a silent acceptance. She walked toward the bedroom, pausing at the doorway to look back at him. Her expression softened just a little, something fragile, something she didn't let show often. "Good night, Jeremy," she said. "Good night, Sci," he answered. She stepped into the room and closed the door halfway, leaving a thin gap of light. Jeremy heard her footsteps reach the bed, the mattress shift, then silence. He returned to the couch, lowered himself onto it, and rested his back against the wall. He kept the lights dim. He kept watch on the entrance. The hum of the heater blended with the distant sound of waves hitting the pylons. He stayed awake long after both of them had fallen asleep. Jeremy woke before the lights shifted into morning mode. The apartment was dim, the air cool, the low hum of the wall heater steady. He'd slept in short stretches on the couch, boots still on, one arm tucked behind his head, the other resting across his chest. His muscles felt tight, but functional. He sat up slowly, listening. The bedroom door was still half open. The soft sound of breathing drifted through, two rhythms, light and even. Sci and Trin were still asleep. He stood quietly, rolling his shoulders once. He checked the door locks out of habit, then moved to the kitchenette, keeping his steps light. The counter felt cold under his palm. He turned on the small stove and heated a pan. The quiet sizzle of oil spread through the room. He cracked 2 machine-farmed eggs and dropped them in, then added sliced Kiri's meat leftovers from the cooler box. The smell of warm protein filled the space. He knew the scent would wake them, and he didn't mind. Food before the registry would make the day easier. Behind him, fabric rustled. Sci stepped out of the bedroom, the oversized shirt hanging loose on her body. The collar slipped off one shoulder. Her hair was dry now, though still heavy at the ends from the shower. Her eyes were sharp but softer than last night. She paused at the threshold, scanning the room the way someone checks for threats before stepping into light. Jeremy saw her noticing the same details. Locked door, quiet apartment, no one else present. Her guard lowered slightly. "You're awake early," she said. "So are you," Jeremy replied. "I heard you move," she said. In the pan, Turin appeared behind her, rubbing his eyes with both hands. His hair stuck up in all directions. He blinked hard, looked at Jeremy, then at the food. "Are you cooking again?" he asked, voice thick with sleep. "Yeah," Jeremy said. "Sit. You should eat something before walking to the registry." Turin climbed onto a chair at the small metal table. Sci hesitated before joining him, adjusting the shirt so her thigh wasn't completely exposed. She sat upright, hands folded loosely on the table. Jeremy plated the food, eggs firm at the edges, Kiri's meat crisped and steaming. He cut the portions evenly. When he set the plates down, Sci watched his hands like she was trying to understand something wordless about him. She didn't start eating until Turin did. When she took her first bite, her shoulders eased. "This is better than the dock stalls," she said quietly. "Cleaner oil," Jeremy answered. Turin ate fast, though not with the desperation from before. His movements were still eager, but he paused between bites this time. After a few minutes, Sci looked up. "You said yesterday you'd walk with us to the registry," she said. "You still plan to?" "I do," Jeremy said. "If you want it." She traced the rim of her plate with her thumb. "You think your badge will make them treat us better?" "I think they won't try to cheat you in front of me." Her jaw tightened. "They raised the fee last time," she said. "Said alien households cost more to process. The woman behind me paid half." Jeremy's expression hardened. He kept his voice low. "They can't change fees by mood. If they try today, I'll call it out." Sci's gaze flicked to Turin, then back. "Thank you," she said, tone firm but sincere. Turin looked at Jeremy with a small spark of hope. "Does this mean we can get a room?" he asked. Sci threaded her fingers through his hair. "We'll try," she said. "No promises." Jeremy picked up the plates and washed them in the small sink. Hot water ran over his hands. He heard Sci stand and felt her presence shift behind him. "You didn't ask why we don't already have a place," she said. You tell me if you wanted, he replied. She leaned against the counter near him, one hip resting lightly against the edge. She looked tired, but more steady. The last room we tried to get, she said, the landlord locked the door behind us. He told me I could keep it if I stayed alone with him at night. She spoke calmly, without shaking. I walked out, Turin, and I slept under the upper docks vent that week. Jeremy's grip on the dish tightened. He kept his tone contained. You won't deal with that today, he said. You can't guarantee that, she replied. No, Jeremy said, but I can stand next to you. And today, that might be enough. She studied him again, her eyes tracing his jaw, his stance, the steadiness he carried even in silence. You keep doing that, she said. Doing what? Acting like you're not carrying anything heavy. I carry plenty, Jeremy said. I just don't put it on you. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she walked to the bedroom, gathered Turin's tunic, and helped him into it. The fabric still sagged on him, but he stood straighter than the night before. Sci tied her tide wrap around her waist, adjusting the knot until it sat comfortably on her hip. She kept the dock shirt on top, sleeves rolled, and brushing her thighs. The mix of clothing looked improvised but practical. Jeremy pulled on his vest, clipped his ID tags to the front, and grabbed his slate from the counter. You ready? He asked. Sci exhaled once. Yes, she said. Let's get this done. Turin slipped his hand into hers as they stepped toward the door. Jeremy unlocked it and held it open. The hallway outside was cool, the glow strips along the floor a half-brightness. Footsteps from early shift workers echoed faintly in the distance. Sci hesitated for a moment before stepping out. Not fear, calculation. She looked left, then right, then at Jeremy. You stay next to us, she said. I was planning to, he answered. They walked toward the lift platform. Sci's steps were steady, though her free hand curled into a fist and loosened as she walked. Jeremy kept pace beside them, not in front, not behind. When the lift doors opened, a pair of dockworkers inside turned and stared. Their eyes moved from Jeremy's vest to Sci's clothing to Turin's thin frame. A smirk formed on one man's face. Jeremy met his eyes directly. The smirk faded. The lift descended. The hum of machinery filled the silence. On the lower terrace, the air grew cooler and carried the smell of seaweed and rusted metal. The registry tower rose at the center of the platform. White stone, clean windows, orderly lines. Sci's breath caught, barely noticeable unless someone stood close. Jeremy noticed. You walk in with your head high, Jeremy said quietly. You earned this. She didn't answer, but her posture changed, chin lifted, shoulders squared. They approached the entrance. A clerk at the desk looked up, eyes moving fast from alien to child to human officer at their side. Household registration, Jeremy said. The clerk swallowed and straightened. Yes, officer, she said quickly. Right this way. Sci held Turin's hand tighter. Jeremy stepped beside her, anchored and steady, prepared to confront anyone who tried to push them aside. They walked into the registry together, 3 people, not 2. The clerk led them through a narrow hallway lined with wall-mounted consoles. Each console displayed bright icons for identity checks, housing applications, schooling forms, and credit transfers. The air inside the registry was dry and chilled, the kind of cold meant to keep people uncomfortable and hurrying. Sci's eyes moved over every detail. She kept Turin close, one hand resting on his shoulder. Jeremy walked at her other side. His presence shifted the expressions of the clerks they passed. Some became overly polite, others stiffened like they were being inspected. The clerk stopped at a small registration booth. A transparent privacy screen flickered, then solidified around them. Inside the booth, the main console hummed to life. Sci straightened and pulled Turin forward. Jeremy stood slightly behind them, close enough to intervene, far enough to give her room. Household status update, the clerk said. Applicant name? Sci, she answered. Parent, Turin. The clerk's fingers tapped the console. Race classification? Sci's jaw tightened. Jeremy stepped forward half a pace. You have all that in the system, he said. Use the ID scan. Of course, the clerk replied quickly, activating the scanner. Sci lifted her wrist. The scanner pulsed, pulling up her data, work history, dock permits, incomplete housing applications. The clerk's eyes flicked across the screen. You attempted registration 3 times, she said. Last time rejected due to outstanding service expectations? Risai's expression turned cold. Jeremy's did the opposite. It darkened. Define that, he said. The clerk swallowed. Sometimes landlords request voluntary additional duties before confirming tenancy. Jeremy stepped closer, and the registry approved that. No, she said quickly. But some clerks allow the applications through if both parties agree. It's not technically illegal. It is today, Jeremy said. Risai's eyes flicked to him. She didn't smile, but something in her shoulders shifted, some old weight lifting 1 notch higher. The clerk cleared her throat. Well, with you here, officer, everything will be processed at the standard rate. Risai stepped forward. What is the fee today? The clerk read the number. It was lower than what Risai had paid last time. She blinked, surprised, then held her breath. Jeremy placed his wrist over hers on the console without touching her skin. Split cost, he said. 1/2 transfer from each of us. Risai stared at him. Jeremy, it's procedural, he said calmly. Shared registration entries require shared payment. It keeps clerks from twisting the rules. It wasn't a lie. It also wasn't the whole truth. He wanted her application to go through cleanly, with no room for a clerk to say she owed anything extra. Turin clutched her tide wrap, his eyes wide. Does this mean we get a room? We'll see what's available, the clerk said, voice now brisk but polite. She tapped the screen again. A list of unit codes appeared. Most are crossed out. A few blinked yellow. These are open, she said. Basic units. 1 room. No balcony. 3-month contract. Risai's throat worked silently. Jeremy leaned closer to the console. What about the ones on the mid-tier? Reserved, the clerk replied. Higher income priority. Jeremy tilted his head. Show them. The clerk hesitated but opened the list. 2 mid-tier units blinked green. Risai's eyes widened. Those are impossible for us. No, Jeremy said. One of them is possible. He tapped the second listing. The clerk frowned. That one requires a household anchor signature. Jeremy answered immediately. I'll sign. Risai went still. Jeremy, she said, voice tight. That attaches your name to ours. For months. I know. You could lose credit priority. You could be responsible for any debt we. You won't, he said. The clerk watched the exchange with full attention now, hands hovering over the console. Do you want the unit or not? She asked gently. Risai turned toward Turin. The boy looked up at her with a hopeful expression that hit her harder than any pressure from the outside world. We need a door that locks, she whispered. Turin nodded. She turned back to Jeremy. You're sure? She asked. Yes, he answered. Why? She whispered. His tone stayed steady. Because you're not alone today. Risai's lips parted. For a moment, she looked like she didn't trust the air around her. Then she stepped forward and placed her palm on the console. Register us, she said. The clerk activated the final sequence. Jeremy Rowan, confirm anchor status. Jeremy placed his hand beside Risai's on the panel. The system scanned both prints. Their names flashed together on the screen for a brief moment before the screen dimmed and printed a thin metal data tag. Congratulations, the clerk said, handing Risai the tag. You are now registered residents of Unit M27. Risai took the tag in both hands. It trembled slightly between her fingers. Turin grinned and grabbed her waist. We have a home. Her breath shook. She pulled him into a tight hug. Jeremy stepped back, letting the moment settle without interrupting it. When Risai finally looked up at him, her eyes were wet but steady. Thank you, she said. This time, I understand why you helped. You don't owe me anything, he said. I know, she replied. That's why it means something. She held his stare longer this time, long enough that something electric passed between them, quiet but unmistakable. The clerk cleared her throat. You can collect the key code at the main reception. Jeremy nodded. We'll do that. He placed a hand gently on Turin's back, guiding him toward the exit. Risai walked beside him, fingers still wrapped around the new registration tag like it was fragile. Outside the registry tower, the morning light hit them full on. The air smelled like salt and fresh wind from the lower bays. Workers moved around them, but no one paid attention now. They walked down the steps together. Risai brushed a strand of red hair behind her ear. After we get the key, I want to see it first. Before Turin walks inside, Jeremy nodded once. Of course. Turin tugged on her hand. Can Jeremy come too? Risai looked at Jeremy, looked at her son, then exhaled slowly. Yes, she said. He's coming with us. They reached the reception desk, collected the thin metal key card stamped with M27, and stepped back out onto the mid-tier walkway. The terrace here was quieter than the lower levels. Fewer crowds, fewer shouting vendors, just the steady wash of sea wind against the pylons and the faint hum of cargo lines overhead. Risai held the key card tightly between her fingers, as if it might disappear if she loosened her grip. Turin walked half a step ahead, almost pulling her forward with the excitement he tried to hide. This way, Jeremy said, guiding them toward the lift on the right. Risai didn't argue, but she stayed close enough to brush his arm when the walkway narrowed. She didn't pull away from the contact. She glanced up at him once, quick, unreadable, and then looked forward again. Inside the lift, the atmosphere shifted. The doors closed with a soft seal, shutting out the noise of the docks. A calm, filtered breeze filled the small space. Turin rocked slightly on his heels. Are mid-tier units really bigger? He asked. Bigger than the dock hostel rooms, Jeremy said. Not by much, but cleaner, safer. Risai watched him carefully. And you've lived around here before. For a few years, he answered. After the dive corps. Wanted something quiet. Risai leaned her back against the wall, still holding the key. Her voice dropped. Quiet is something we've never had. You will now, Jeremy said. The lift opened to a long, curved corridor lit by soft white strips along the ceiling. Doors lined both sides, evenly spaced, each marked with a simple unit number. No broken panels, no graffiti, no dents in the walls. Risai's pace slowed. Turin tugged her hand. Come on, it's right there. Look, M27. The door sat at the far end, near a small corner window overlooking the sea. Sunlight flickered through the glass and cut a clean path across the floor. She stopped in front of the door. Her breath came shallow, as if her body wasn't used to stillness. Jeremy stepped beside her, but didn't crowd her. You open it, he said. She pressed the key card gently to the reader. The lock clicked. The door slid open with a smooth hiss. The room inside was small but clean. A single wide window faced the water. The floor was warm underfoot. A modest bed frame sat against the wall. A narrow counter stretched beneath the window. Nothing fancy, but enough for preparing meals. 2 drawers, a water panel, a small storage cabinet. For a moment, Risai didn't move. Turin burst forward. It's warm. Mom, it's warm. He pressed his hands against the floor, laughing quietly in disbelief. Risai stepped inside with slow, careful movements. Her fingers brushed the surface of the counter, testing the texture. She checked the water panel, activated the tap, then turned it off. She opened the storage cabinet. Empty, untouched. She turned in a slow circle, almost suspicious of the quiet. Jeremy watched her from the doorway, understanding why she needed time. It's real, she said, barely audible. It's yours, Jeremy answered. She stared at the walls again, solid, uncracked, no stains, no hidden mold, no broken seals. Then she looked at Jeremy, and something in her face folded inward. Not weakness, relief hitting too fast for her to control. This is the first door someone gave us without asking what I'd trade for it, she said. Jeremy didn't interrupt. He didn't touch her. He let her stand in it. Turin ran to the bed and pressed down on it with both hands. The mattress pushed back soft. It doesn't sink, he said. It's not broken. Risai's breath caught. She walked toward the bed, set the key down on the windowsill, and sat beside Turin. She ran her fingers along the fabric. She pressed her hand into the mattress. She didn't hide the small tremor in her wrist. After a long moment, she looked up at Jeremy. Close the door, she said. Not an order, a request. He stepped inside and slid the door shut. The soft click echoed through the room. The space felt different with the door sealed. Warmer, more contained, almost intimate. Risai noticed the shift too. She straightened, her eyes sharpening again, recalibrating. Jeremy, she said quietly, you need to understand something. He stepped closer but kept his hands at his sides. Tell me, where I come from, when a man stands this close to a woman in her home, it usually means he expects something. So do you expect that from me? Jeremy asked. No, she said, her voice steady. I don't, but I need to hear you say it. He exhaled once. I'm here to help you settle in. Nothing else. Her shoulders lowered. Good. Then her gaze drifted to his hands, strong, scarred along the knuckles, and something shifted in her expression again, small but undeniable. She rose from the bed and approached him. She stopped when she was close enough for the fabric of her borrowed shirt to brush his vest. You keep putting yourself beside us, she said. Not above, not behind. Beside. That's where I'm supposed to be, Jeremy replied. Her eyes flicked over his face, reading every small movement. Then answer something, she said. Why us? You could have kept walking yesterday. I saw a boy who needed food, he said. Then I saw a woman who needed someone to stop looking away. That's simple, she asked. Yes, he said. Risai studied him for a long moment. Long enough that Jeremy caught the faint rise of her breath, the nearly invisible tension in her fingers, the way her voice softened when she finally spoke again. You're different, she whispered. She didn't step back. Turin, oblivious, climbed onto the bed and tested the springs again, bouncing once. Risai didn't turn toward him. She trusted Jeremy to stay alert, trusted the door to stay locked. You're staying here today, she said. Right. I'm not leaving until you want me to, Jeremy said. Good, she said. She looked around the room again, slower this time, taking in each surface like she was memorizing safety. When she faced him again, her expression carried something new, something fragile, something she didn't want him to misread. I want to feel this place settle around us, she said. Just for a little while. Jeremy nodded once. He stepped further inside, letting the door stay sealed behind him as the three of them stood together in Unit M27, the first room Risai and Turin had ever entered without fear. Turin wore himself out, exploring every corner of the unit. The cupboard doors, the bed frame, the single narrow drawer under the counter. He checked all of it twice. By the time he finally settled, he curled up on the mattress with his head buried in the blanket, mumbling that it smelled clean. Within minutes, he fell asleep. Risai watched him quietly from near the window. The afternoon light spilled across her legs and the loose hem of Jeremy's shirt. She seemed suspended between relief and disbelief. Jeremy stood near the door, arms folded, giving her space but aware of every breath she took. The silence in the room wasn't empty. It felt like the kind of silence that holds questions no one has asked yet. She turned to him. You've stayed longer than you needed to, she said. You didn't ask me to leave, Jeremy replied. If I had, she asked, would you? Yes, he said, but not right away. You're still unsettled. And he's exhausted. He gestured briefly toward the sleeping boy. Risai looked at her son, then back at Jeremy. She took a slow step toward him, her bare feet quiet on the warm floor. The shirt shifted over her hips with each movement. Jeremy, she said softly, I need you to be honest with me. I have been. Then tell me something. Her voice tightened, not with anger, hesitation. When you signed your name with ours, what did you think that meant? He answered without flinching. That I'm responsible for making sure you both stay safe. That's all. That's all, she repeated, watching him carefully. For now, he said. Her breath caught. For now. He didn't elaborate. Instead, he let the words sit between them, waited just enough to be true but not enough to pressure her. Her fingers brushed the top button of the shirt, an unconscious gesture, and she looked away for a second before facing him again. You don't act like the men I've known, she said. That's the point. She stepped closer until only a small space remained between them. She tilted her chin up to meet his gaze. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Then what am I to you right now? Jeremy took his time answering. He let his eyes move across her face, her damp hair, the freckles of gold along her collarbone, the vulnerable steadiness in her stare. He kept his voice low. Someone who deserves a home, he said, not a debt. She inhaled sharply, her throat tightening. For a moment, she blinked fast, as if trying to control something brewing under her ribs. Jeremy, she hesitated, searching for words. All my life, men offered help only when they wanted something back. I don't know how to stand in front of someone who doesn't ask anything. That's fine, Jeremy said. You'll learn. She swallowed hard. And what about you? You really want nothing. Jeremy stepped forward just enough that she felt the warmth of his chest near her. He didn't touch her. His voice stayed steady. I want you, he said, but not as payment. Risai's lips parted. The air in the room shifted, heavier but calmer than the fear-filled closeness she lived through before. Turin slept soundly on the bed, unaware. She lifted her hand. Slowly, carefully, she placed her palm against Jeremy's chest. His heartbeat thumped steadily under her fingertips. You're not supposed to make this easy, she said. I'm not trying to make it easy, he said. I'm trying to make it real. Her hand slid up, her fingers curling into the fabric of his vest. She didn't pull him, didn't force anything. She simply held on. I want one thing, she whispered. What? Show me that this isn't temporary. Jeremy reached up and gently closed his hand around her wrist. Not to move it away, but to let her feel him holding her, anchored and deliberate. It isn't, he said. The words hit her hard. She stepped closer, fully this time, closing the gap between them. Her other hand lifted to his jaw, brushing the stubble there. She searched his eyes again, making sure he understood the meaning of what she asked next. Kiss me, she said quietly, because I choose it, not because I owe it. Jeremy didn't hesitate. He lowered his head and pressed his mouth to hers, slow, steady, careful at first. Risai let out a soft breath against his lips, her body leaning into him. Her fingers slid up into his hair, gripping lightly. Jeremy's hands found her waist, pulling her against him with a firmness that left no confusion. The kiss deepened, not rushed, not desperate, real. Her tied wrap loosened slightly at her hip. Jeremy's thumb brushed the exposed skin there. The small sound she made against his mouth told him she didn't want him to stop. She pulled back only enough to breathe, her forehead resting against his. Jeremy, don't pretend this means nothing. I'm not pretending, he said. I've wanted this since the moment I saw you in the market. She closed her eyes for a moment, steadying herself. When she opened them again, her voice was low and certain. Then stay a little longer. She led him toward the bed, quiet and purposeful. Turin slept near the edge, curled tightly, leaving space on the far side. Risai checked the blanket around her son, then turned back to Jeremy with a look that held trust, not fear, not bargaining. She touched his chest again. Here, she whispered, guiding him gently beside her. Jeremy slid onto the bed without breaking eye contact. Her body followed his, settling against him. She lifted his vest with slow hands, letting her palms explore the shape of him with curiosity instead of caution. His fingers traced her waist, pulling her closer. She exhaled sharply at the warmth of his touch, curling a leg over his. Her breath hitched as she pressed her lips to his neck, her voice a soft murmur against his skin. I want to feel wanted, she said. Not bought. You are, he murmured back, gripping the curve of her hip. Every part of you. She kissed him again, deeper this time, and her body moved over his with unmistakable intention. For a moment, the world outside the sealed unit disappeared completely. Then a small shift on the mattress broke the movement. Turin rolled slightly, still asleep, one arm stretching into the space beside him. Risai froze. Jeremy stopped instantly. Their breathing steadied as they looked toward the boy. He didn't wake. Risai slowly lifted her head from Jeremy's chest. The moment changed, not gone, not broken, but redirected. She let out a quiet breath. Not here, she whispered. Not while he's right beside us. Jeremy nodded. When you're ready. She pressed a soft kiss to his cheek, more intimate than anything before, and whispered soon. She curled against him under the blanket, letting his arm wrap around her. She rested her head on his shoulder, her leg draped lightly over his. Jeremy held her with steady warmth, protective without trapping. For the first time, Risai's body truly relaxed against another person. And together, with Turin breathing softly at their side, They drifted into a quiet, shared calm, something closer to a family than any of them had ever known. Morning arrived slowly, slipping into the room through the narrow window. Pale gold light stretched across the floor and climbed up the side of the bed. Sci stirred first. Her fingers curled against Jeremy's chest, tracing the warm skin where his vest had been the night before. She blinked, adjusting to the softness of waking in a safe place for the first time in years. Turin was still asleep beside them, wrapped in the blanket, breathing steadily. Jeremy opened his eyes a moment later, instinctively scanning the room. When he saw Sci watching him, the tension in his shoulders eased. She didn't pull away. She only shifted slightly, lifting her head so she could see him better. "You didn't move all night," she said quietly. "I didn't want to disturb you," he replied. "You couldn't," she said, voice soft. "Not last night." Her fingertips brushed the line of his jaw before she caught herself. She looked toward Turin, then back at Jeremy. "Thank you for stopping when he moved," she whispered. "You didn't even hesitate." "I meant what I said," Jeremy answered. "This isn't something we rush. Not here. Not with him beside us." Sci looked down at the sleeping boy, her expression tender and protective. He hasn't slept this deeply in years. Jeremy sat up slowly, careful not to wake Turin. Sci followed. She tucked the blanket around her son, smoothing his hair. When she turned back to Jeremy, she cleared her throat, suddenly unsure. "You stayed," she said. "You asked me to," Jeremy replied. "I don't back out of things like that." She watched him put on his vest. She watched the way his movements were steady and practiced, like he already understood how to move inside this new life without unsettling it. "Jeremy," she said, stepping closer. "Yesterday, when you signed your name with ours, I didn't realize how much that would change." "Did you regret it?" he asked. "No," she said. "I'm still trying to understand it." He stepped toward her, closing the small distance between them. "You don't need to understand everything today. Just tell me what you want right now." Sci swallowed, her breathing becoming uneven for a second. "I want this place to be real," she said. "Not something that disappears when you walk out the door." "It doesn't disappear," he said. "And neither do I." She reached up, placing her hand flat on his chest. The same place she touched last night. It made him still for a moment. "You say things like that," she whispered, "and I start believing you." "You should." She drew in a slow breath, then glanced again at Turin to make sure he was still asleep. When she looked back, her expression held something new, softness mixed with certainty. "There's something else," she said. "Something I felt this morning." "What is it?" Jeremy asked. Her free hand moved instinctively to her lower stomach, pressing lightly as if reassuring herself of the sensation. "I'm late," she said quietly. 2 cycles. Jeremy didn't speak at first. His jaw tightened, not from fear, but from the sudden, solid weight of understanding. He looked at her hand, then at her face. "You're sure?" he asked. "I know my body," she said, "and everything feels different. The nausea during the walk yesterday, the dizziness last night, it fits." Turin rolled onto his back, still asleep. Sci lowered her voice even more. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said, "because I didn't know what it would mean for us. For you." Jeremy stepped closer until she felt his breath on her forehead. He slid a hand gently around her waist, anchoring her without pulling. "It means," he said, "we need a bigger table." Her eyes widened. "That's it. That's everything," he said. She let out a shaky laugh, quiet, relieved, disbelieving. When she leaned into him, his arms came around her immediately, steady and warm. Her forehead pressed to his collarbone, and he felt her whole body soften against him. "You're not scared," she whispered against his skin. "I'm not," he said. "Are you?" "Yes," she admitted, "but not for the reasons I used to be." Jeremy lifted her chin gently, so she had to meet his eyes. "You and Turin are mine now. And if there's a child coming, then that child is mine too. We'll figure the rest out. Together." Her throat tightened. "You speak like you mean it." "I do," he said. "Every word." Turin shifted again, mumbling in his sleep. Sci wiped her face quickly before turning to check on him. Jeremy waited, watching the way she adjusted the blanket, the way her hand lingered on her son's shoulder. When she turned back to him, something in her expression had changed. A decision had been made. Jeremy, she said, there's a bond ritual we use in my culture. Not a marriage, not ownership, a declaration, a promise. Two people press their palms together and swear to anchor their lives. It's called pair anchor. Jeremy didn't blink. You want that? Yes, she said. With you. He stepped forward and held out his hand without hesitation. Then show me. Her breath hitched. She placed her palm against his. Their skin touched, warm, firm, perfectly aligned. The gold flecks under Risai's skin shimmered faintly, spreading warmth into his hand. Jeremy tightened his fingers around hers, steady and sure. This means we're choosing each other, she said. We already did, he replied. A soft golden print formed on his palm, a temporary mark, glowing faintly before fading. She stared at his hand, stunned. You took it, she whispered. You didn't even flinch. Why would I, he asked. She stepped closer and kissed him. Not the desperate kiss of fear or uncertainty. Quiet, deliberate, full of trust. When they pulled apart, Turin yawned loudly behind them. Risai smiled. Jeremy turned. Turin blinked at them sleepily. Are we still here? Yeah, Jeremy said. We're still here. And we're not leaving, Risai added. Turin sat up slowly. All of us. Jeremy nodded. All of us. The boy looked between them, piecing it together. His eyes brightened. He crawled across the bed and wrapped his arms around Risai, then reached for Jeremy's vest. Jeremy lifted him easily with one arm. Risai pressed her forehead against both of them, her voice barely a breath. This is home, she said. Jeremy kissed her hair. For good, he answered. They stayed like that, 3 people in a small, clean room overlooking the sea, wrapped in a quiet, certain warmth that would not fade. The morning light grew brighter, filling every corner of Unit M27. And for the first time in their lives, nothing was missing.